The small research ship drifted silently through the darkness of space. Inside, Ilara pressed her six-fingered hand against the control panel one more time, hoping for a different result. The warning lights continued to flash red. Their ship was badly damaged. "Mother, are we going to be okay?" Zephyr asked. The young Lyrian child sat huddled under a thermal blanket, his normally bright skin now dull and pale. Ilara looked at her son with eyes that shimmered like opals. She wanted to tell him everything would be fine, but she had never lied to him before. She would not start now. "Our ship was hit very badly by the meteor shower," she explained gently. "The life support systems are failing. We have maybe 3 days of breathable air left." Zephyr was young, only 8 cycles old, but he understood what that meant. Their people, the Lyrians, needed a special mix of gases to breathe. Without the life support systems, they would slowly suffocate. "Will anyone find us?" he asked. Ilara moved to sit beside her son, wincing at the pain in her leg. The crash had broken it in 2 places, and she had done her best to set it with the limited medical supplies they had. "We are very far from any Lyrian outposts," she said, "but I have activated the emergency beacon. It sends a signal that can be heard by anyone with communication technology." "Even other species?" Zephyr's voice held a mix of fear and hope. "Yes, even other species." Outside their view screen, the barren moon stretched in all directions. It was a lifeless rock orbiting a gas giant, far from any trade routes. They had been on a research mission, studying the unusual magnetic fields of the planet, when the meteor shower struck without warning. Their ship's engines were destroyed, and they had barely managed to crash land on the moon's surface. Ilara checked the oxygen levels again. They were dropping faster than she had calculated. She felt a stab of fear but kept her face calm for Zephyr's sake. "Why don't I tell you about the stars while we wait?" she suggested. "Remember how we were mapping the constellation seen from our homeworld?" Zephyr nodded, leaning against his mother's side. He loved her stories. Meanwhile, millions of miles away, aboard the human exploration vessel Horizon, Communications Officer Betty Wilson sat up straight in her chair. She adjusted her headset and listened again to the strange signal coming through. "Captain Clark," she called. "I'm picking up a distress beacon. It's not one of ours." Captain Susan Clark crossed the bridge in quick strides. She was a tall woman, with short gray hair and eyes that missed nothing. 20 years of space exploration had taught her to take everything seriously. "What kind of signal?" she asked. "It's broadcasting on all frequencies. There's data embedded in it. Biological information, atmospheric requirements." Betty frowned as she studied her screens. "I think it's from another species, Captain." First Officer Alan West joined them, his face concerned. "We're outside the boundaries of human-explored space. Protocol says we should report this to command and wait for orders." Susan nodded. She knew the rules. First contact situations were delicate and potentially dangerous. The proper procedure was to gather information from a safe distance and let the experts decide what to do. "How long would it take command to send a response?" she asked. Alan checked the star charts. "At this distance, at least 4 days for the message to reach Earth and another 4 for their response to reach us." Betty's hands flew over her console as she continued to analyze the signal. "Captain, there's something else. The beacon includes a countdown. Their life support systems are failing. According to this, they have less than 3 days of breathable atmosphere left." Silence fell over the bridge. Everyone understood what that meant. By the time they received orders from Earth, whoever sent the distress call would be dead. Susan stared at the view screen, where the coordinates of the signal origin glowed steadily. She had joined Space Exploration Command to discover new worlds and maybe someday meet other intelligent species. But not like this. Not finding them only to watch them die because of red tape. "Plot a course to the signal source," she ordered. "Maximum speed." Alan looked startled. "Captain, that's against protocol for first contact scenarios." Susan met his gaze steadily. "I'm well aware of that, Alan. But the first contact protocol also states that we should endeavor to represent the best of humanity." She gestured toward the coordinates. "Someone out there is dying. They've asked for help. What does it say about us if we just sit here and let it happen when we could do something? After a moment, Alan nodded. Course plotted, Captain. At maximum warp, we'll arrive in approximately 65 hours. That's cutting it close, Susan said. Engineer Rodriguez, can we get any more speed out of the engines? Chief Engineer Paul Rodriguez's voice came over the comm. Not safely, Captain, but since when has that stopped us? I'll see what I can do. Susan turned to Dr. Linda Barnes, the ship's xenobiologist. Doctor, study that biological data. I need to know what kind of atmosphere they breathe, what medical supplies we might need. Anything that will help us keep them alive. Already on it, Linda replied, her dark eyes focused intently on her tablet. Their physiology is fascinating, silicon-based rather than carbon like us. They'll need a nitrogen-rich environment with very little oxygen. Security Chief Jones, Susan continued, prepare a first contact team, full environmental suits, non-threatening approach procedures. William Jones nodded sharply. Yes, Captain. I'll select team members with first contact training. As the crew rushed to their tasks, Susan looked again at the coordinates on the view screen. She had just made a decision that could end her career, if it went badly. But in her heart, she knew it was the right choice. Hang on, she whispered to the unknown beings who had sent the call. We're coming. Back on the moon, Ilara held her sleeping son close. The temperature in the ship was dropping as the environmental systems failed. She had given Zephyr the last working thermal blanket, and she could feel the cold seeping into her injured body. As her eyes grew heavy, she watched the small light on the emergency beacon. It pulsed steadily, sending their plea for help into the darkness of space. A call that she feared no one would answer in time. But unknown to her, help was already on the way. Humans were coming. The rescue team moved across the moon's barren surface toward the crashed alien ship. Their boots kicked up gray dust with each step. Dr. Linda Barnes checked her equipment again. The portable atmosphere generator hummed quietly on her back. Remember, she said through the comm system, we don't know how they'll react to seeing us. Their species has never encountered humans before. Security Chief William Jones nodded inside his helmet. Approach slowly, no sudden movements. Keep your hands visible at all times. The team reached the damaged ship. Its once smooth hull was dented and torn. A large crack ran along one side where it had hit the moon's surface during the crash landing. William found what appeared to be an entry hatch and examined it. Looks like their airlock system is completely dead, he reported. We'll need to cut our way in. Kevin Miller, one of the medical technicians, set up a portable cutting tool. This will take a few minutes, he said. The metal is different from anything I've worked with before. As Kevin worked on cutting a safe entrance, Linda contacted the horizon. Captain, we're about to enter the alien vessel. According to our scans, the atmosphere inside is almost gone. Temperature is well below freezing. Understood, Susan replied from the bridge. Be careful in there. The cutting tool finished its work. William carefully pushed the cut section inward, creating an opening large enough for the team to enter one at a time. He went first, sweeping his light around the dark interior. I see them, he said quietly. 2 aliens. 1 adult. 1 child. They're at the far end of the main cabin. Linda followed him inside, her heart pounding. This was the moment humanity had wondered about for centuries. First contact with an intelligent alien species. But there was no time for scientific wonder. These beings were dying. The interior of the ship was freezing cold. Ice crystals had formed on every surface. Linda's light fell on the 2 aliens. They sat huddled together against the far wall. The larger one, Ilara, Linda assumed, had wrapped herself protectively around the smaller one. Neither was moving. Linda approached slowly, keeping her movements gentle. As she drew closer, she saw that the alien skin had a strange crystalline quality. It seemed to catch her light and reflect it in subtle rainbow patterns, though the effect was dull and fading. Ilara, she called softly. The translation device on her suit converted her words into sounds the alien might understand. The larger alien's eyes opened slowly. They were unlike human eyes, large, with no visible pupils, and they glowed faintly with an inner light. Linda gasped quietly at their beauty even in this dire situation. "Help," Ilara whispered, the translator catching the word. "Help my son." Linda knelt beside them and ran her medical scanner over the child. "His core temperature is dangerously low," she reported to the team. "Respiratory function almost stopped. We need to warm him up immediately and get him into a proper atmosphere." Kevin and the other medical technician, Sarah Green, quickly set up the portable atmosphere generator. The device hummed louder, creating a bubble of specialized air around them that matched the Lyrian's needs. "The child first," Linda directed. She carefully reached for Zephyr, but Ilara's grip tightened. "It's okay," Linda said gently. "We're here to help. I'm a doctor. I need to help your son." Ilara stared at Linda's face through the helmet visor. The alien's gaze was intense, searching. After a moment, she slowly relaxed her arms, allowing Linda to take Zephyr. The child was terrifyingly light in Linda's arms. His skin was cold to the touch, even through her gloves. She quickly placed him on the emergency medical mat that Sarah had prepared. "Starting emergency warming protocol," Linda announced as she attached small devices to Zephyr's body. The devices began to glow with gentle heat. William turned his attention to Ilara. "You're injured," he said, noticing her poorly bandaged leg. Ilara didn't respond. She was watching Linda work on her son, her large eyes never blinking. "The atmosphere is improving," Kevin reported, checking his instruments. "Oxygen levels rising to their required parameters. Nitrogen balance stabilizing." Linda nodded without looking up from Zephyr. "Come on, little one," she whispered. "Stay with us." For several tense minutes, nothing changed. Then, almost imperceptibly, the dull glow of Zephyr's skin brightened, slightly. His chest moved in a deeper breath. Linda's scanner beeped. "We have improved life signs," she announced. "He's responding to treatment." A sound came from Ilara, something between a sigh and a sob. She tried to move toward her son, but winced in pain. "Please stay still," William said. "Your leg is badly broken. We need to stabilize it before we move you." While Linda and Sarah continued working on Zephyr, William and Kevin turned their attention to Ilara. Her injuries were serious, a compound fracture of her leg and internal injuries that the scanners could barely interpret, given her alien physiology. "Captain," William reported, "the child is stabilizing, but the adult needs immediate advanced medical care. We should transport them to the horizon as soon as possible." "Understood," Susan replied. "The scavenger ships are getting closer. We need to be away from here before they arrive." The team prepared stretchers for both aliens. As they worked, Ilara reached out a six-fingered hand toward Linda. The human doctor paused and took the alien's hand in hers. "Thank you," Ilara said through the translator. "You came." Linda nodded, feeling the weight of the moment. "Yes, we heard your call." "No one else would have reached us in time," Ilara said. Her voice was weak but held deep emotion. "Why did you come? We are strangers to you." For a moment, Linda wasn't sure how to answer such a fundamental question. Then she simply said what was in her heart. "Because you needed help. That's enough reason for us." Zephyr stirred on his stretcher. His eyes, similar to his mother's but larger in proportion to his small face, opened slightly. He saw the strange beings in their protective suits and made a frightened sound. "It's okay," Ilara said to him in their language, which the translators converted for the humans. "These are friends. They came to help us." Zephyr looked at the humans with wonder. Though still very weak, his natural curiosity began to show. "What are they?" he asked. "They call themselves humans," Ilara told him. "They heard our call when no one else could." The team carefully moved both aliens onto stretchers. The portable atmosphere generators continued to create a breathable environment around them as they were carried out of the damaged ship and across the moon's surface toward the waiting horizon. As they approached the human vessel, Zephyr looked up at the massive ship with wide eyes. The horizon was unlike anything the Lyrians had seen before, built for different conditions by different minds with different technologies. "It's so strange," he whispered. "Yes," his mother replied softly. "But today, strange is good." Aboard the Horizon, a specialized medical chamber had been prepared according to Dr. Barnes's specifications. The atmosphere, temperature, and light had all been adjusted to match what the Lyrians needed. As the rescue team brought the aliens aboard, Captain Susan Clark was there to meet them. She looked at the crystalline beings on the stretchers, a mother and child from a completely unknown civilization. In all her years of space exploration, she had never imagined this scenario. First contact was happening not in some formal diplomatic meeting, but in a desperate rescue on a barren moon. "Welcome aboard," she said simply. The mother's glowing eyes met hers. Even without understanding alien expressions, Susan could recognize gratitude when she saw it. As the aliens were rushed to the medical chamber, Susan returned to the bridge. The scavenger ships were now visible on their scanners, approaching rapidly. The race wasn't over yet. Captain Susan Clark stood on the bridge of the Horizon, watching the approaching scavenger ships on the main view screen. There were 3 of them, all heavily armed. "Time until they reach us?" she asked. First Officer Alan West checked his display. 20 minutes, Captain," Susan nodded. "Hail them." The communications officer worked her controls. After a few moments, the view screen changed to show the face of a rough-looking man with a scar running down one cheek. "This is Captain Dre of the salvage vessel Nighthawk," he said. "You're interfering with our salvage operation. That alien ship and everything on it belongs to us by right of discovery." Susan's expression remained calm. "This is Captain Susan Clark of the Earth vessel Horizon. The ship you're referring to sent a distress call. We responded to a rescue situation, not a salvage operation." Dre sneered. "Rescue? Those aliens were as good as dead. Their technology is worth a fortune to the right buyers." "The aliens are alive and under our protection," Susan replied. "We're leaving this area now. I suggest you do the same." Dre leaned forward. "You have something that belongs to us, the aliens and their ship. Hand them over, or we'll take them by force." Susan ended the transmission with a gesture. She turned to Alan. "Battle stations. Shields up." Alarms sounded throughout the Horizon as crew members rushed to their emergency positions. The Horizon was primarily an exploration vessel, not a warship, but it was well equipped for defense. "We're outnumbered, Captain," Alan said quietly. "The Nighthawk has heavy weapons." Susan nodded. "I know, but we're not giving up those aliens." She tapped her comm badge. "Engineering. We need full power to the engines. As soon as our guests are secured in medical, we're making a run for it." "Understood, Captain," Paul Rodriguez replied from engineering. "The engines are ready. They're still hot from our rush to get here, but they'll hold." In the specialized medical chamber, Dr. Linda Barnes and her team worked to stabilize their alien patients. The room had been adjusted to match the atmospheric needs of the Lyrians. The temperature was warmer now, and the air had the correct balance of gases for their physiology. Zephyr lay on a medical bed, connected to monitors that tracked his vital signs. His condition was improving, his crystalline skin beginning to glow more brightly. Ilara was on a bed nearby. Her injuries were more severe. Her broken leg had been set, but her internal injuries were challenging to treat given their limited knowledge of Lyrian biology. The ship shuddered suddenly. Linda grabbed a nearby rail to steady herself. "What was that?" Sarah Green asked, looking up from her work. Linda tapped her comm badge. "Medical to bridge." "What's happening?" "The scavengers are firing on us," Susan's voice replied. "We're taking evasive action. Secure your patients. This ride might get rough." Linda and her team quickly secured both aliens to their beds with restraints that would protect them during sudden movements. Zephyr looked frightened. "What's happening?" he asked, his voice translated by the ship's computer. Linda placed a gentle hand on his shoulder. "Some bad people want to take you and your mother. Our captain is making sure that doesn't happen." Zephyr's large eyes widened. "You are fighting for us?" "We're protecting you," Linda corrected. You're under our care now." On the bridge, Susan directed the battle with calm precision. The horizon twisted and turned, avoiding most of the scavengers' weapons fire. "Target the lead ship's weapon systems," she ordered. "Disable, don't destroy." The horizon's defensive weapons fired, striking the Nighthawk's main gun array. The scavenger ship veered off, trailing smoke from the damaged section. "The other two ships are still pursuing," Alan reported. "They're trying to box us in." Susan studied the tactical display. "Dump the electromagnetic chaff, then full power to the rear shields." The horizon released a cloud of metallic particles that scattered the scavengers' targeting sensors. At the same time, the ship's energy was redirected to strengthen the shields on its aft section just as one of the scavenger ships fired. The impact rocked the horizon, but the shields held. "Return fire," Susan ordered. "Target their engines." The horizon's weapons struck the second scavenger ship. Its engines sputtered and died, leaving it drifting in space. "The third ship is breaking off pursuit," Alan announced with relief in his voice. "They are moving to assist the other damaged vessels." Susan nodded. "Set course for Earth space, maximum safe speed." As the horizon jumped to warp speed, leaving the moon and the scavengers behind, Susan let out a breath she hadn't realized she was holding. The encounter had been brief but intense. She tapped her comm badge. "Bridge to medical status report." "The aliens are stable, Captain," Linda replied. "The boy is recovering quickly. His mother's condition is serious but improving. We've managed to repair most of her internal injuries." "Good work, Doctor. I'm on my way down." Susan left the bridge and headed to the medical section. When she entered the specialized chamber, she removed her jacket and rolled up her sleeves to adjust to the warmer temperature. Zephyr was sitting up in his bed, watching everything with fascination. His skin now glowed with a soft blue light that pulsed gently. When he saw Susan, his eyes brightened. "Are you the captain?" he asked through the translator. Susan smiled and approached his bed. "Yes, I'm Captain Clark. How are you feeling?" "Better," Zephyr said. "The doctor says I was very sick from the cold and bad air, but I'm getting well now." He looked toward the other bed. "My mother is still sleeping." "She needs more rest to heal," Susan explained. "She was hurt worse than you." Zephyr studied Susan with open curiosity. "You look very different from us." Susan nodded. "We are different. Humans and Lyrians evolved on different worlds, in different conditions." "But you still helped us," Zephyr said. "Those other ships wanted to take our things and leave us to die. Why did you fight them to protect us?" Susan thought about how to answer in a way the child would understand. "Because that's what humans do, or at least what we try to do. We help those who need help." Linda joined them, checking Zephyr's monitors. "His recovery is remarkable, Captain. The resilience of their species is extraordinary." From the other bed came a weak voice. "It is not just our resilience." Ilara had awakened and was watching them. "It is your kindness that saved us." Susan moved to stand beside Ilara's bed. "How are you feeling?" "I will recover," Ilara said. "Thanks to you and your crew." She reached out a six-fingered hand and, after a moment's hesitation, Susan took it. Ilara's grip was gentle but firm. Her skin felt smooth and slightly cool to the touch. "You risked your lives for strangers," she said. "My people had observed humans from afar, but we never understood you. We saw your wars and conflicts and thought you were dangerous. We never saw this side of your species." Susan smiled. "We're complicated, capable of both great harm and great good. But I like to think that when it truly matters, the good wins out." Ilara nodded slowly. "My people will want to know of this, of how humans answered a call that no one else could have reached in time." As the horizon traveled through space, heading for Earth territory where they would be safe from the scavengers, a new connection was forming. Two species, completely different in appearance and origin, were finding common ground in the most basic of all sentient traits: compassion. The rescue had become something more. It had become first contact. The Horizon pushed through space faster than it was designed to go. In the engine room, Chief Engineer Paul Rodriguez wiped sweat from his forehead as he adjusted controls and rerouted power. Warning lights flashed on his panels. "The warp drives are running hot, Captain," he reported through the comm system. "We're pushing them 20% beyond safety limits." "Can they hold?" Captain Susan Clark asked from the bridge. Paul studied the readings. "For now, but I can't guarantee they won't burn out before we reach our destination." "Do your best, engineer. Lives depend on it." Paul nodded to himself. He understood the stakes. In his 15 years of service, he had never been part of a rescue mission, quite like this one. They were rushing toward beings they had never met, from a species humans had never encountered. On the bridge, Dr. Linda Barnes worked furiously at her station. The biological data from the distress signal was complex. She had never seen anything like the Lyrians' physiology. "Their blood isn't iron-based like ours," she explained during the emergency briefing. "It contains compounds similar to copper, and their cellular structure has crystalline elements that our scanners barely recognize as living tissue. Can we help them?" Susan asked. Linda nodded cautiously. "I believe so. I've been programming the medical synthesizers to create compounds compatible with their biology. But we'll need to modify our emergency suits to carry the right atmospheric mix." First Officer Alan West studied the tactical display with concern. "We're not the only ones who picked up that signal," he said. "Long-range scanners show 3 vessels approaching the moon from the other direction. They'll get there about the same time we do." "Identification?" Susan asked. "Unknown, but the configuration matches known scavenger ships. They operate in the border regions between star systems, salvaging technology and not caring much where it comes from." Susan's expression hardened. "So they're not coming to help?" "Not likely," Alan agreed. "They're probably after the alien technology." Susan turned to Security Chief William Jones. "Prepare defensive measures. I hope we won't need them, but I want to be ready." William nodded sharply. "Yes, Captain." Meanwhile, on the cold surface of the distant moon, Alara struggled to stay awake. The temperature in the ship had dropped dangerously low. The life support system was failing faster than she had calculated. Zephyr shivered against her despite the thermal blanket. "Mother, I'm so cold," he whispered. Alara held him closer. "I know, my star. I know." She had already given him all the remaining thermal supplements. There was nothing more she could do except share her body heat. Zephyr's breathing had become shallow. His normally luminescent skin was dull, barely glowing. Alara felt fear grip her heart. Her son was dying, and she could not save him. "Tell me again about the Great Forest," Zephyr asked weakly. Alara stroked his head. The Great Forest was their home on the Lyrian homeworld, where crystal trees grew tall and caught the light of their twin suns. "The forest stretches for thousands of miles," she began, her voice soft. "The crystal trees reach so high that their tops disappear into the clouds. When the morning suns rise, the whole forest glows with rainbow light. The ground is covered with soft moss that feels like velvet. Under your feet," Zephyr smiled faintly. "And the singing flowers?" "Yes, the singing flowers. They open at dusk and release spores that float through the air like tiny lights. As they drift, they create musical notes. In the evening, the whole forest fills with their song." As she spoke, Alara checked the ship's sensors one more time. The oxygen levels were critical now. They had less than 24 hours left. She closed her eyes briefly, fighting against despair. When she opened them again, something on the scanner caught her attention. A ship was approaching. Then another reading appeared. 3 more ships coming from a different direction. Hope and fear battled within her. Who were they? Would they help or harm? Aboard the Horizon, tension grew as they neared their destination. The engines groaned under the strain of maximum speed. Paul Rodriguez and his engineering team worked non-stop to keep them running. "Entering the star system now," Alan announced. "We'll reach the moon in 40 minutes. Susan nodded. "Status of the other vessels?" "They'll arrive in about 2 hours. We'll get there first, but not by much." In the medical bay, Dr. Linda Barnes and her team prepared specialized equipment. They had created atmospheric converters that would generate a breathable environment. For the aliens, Nurse Kevin Miller checked the medical kits they had assembled. "Do you think we can save them?" he asked quietly. Linda looked up from her work. "We have to try. According to their beacon data, they're running out of time." On the moon's surface, the temperature continued to drop in the damaged alien ship. Ilara had fallen into a daze, her body shutting down to preserve her core functions. Only her determination to keep Zephyr alive kept her conscious at all. The young Lyrian child had stopped shivering, a dangerous sign. His body no longer had the energy to fight the cold. Ilara pulled him closer, wrapping her arms around him. "Stay with me, my star," she whispered. "Just a little longer." A sudden noise made her look up. Something was happening outside their ship. A vibration ran through the hull. For a moment, she feared it was the scavengers she had detected earlier. They were known throughout this sector of space for their ruthlessness. Instead, a new signal appeared on her failing communication panel. Someone was trying to contact them. With trembling fingers, Ilara reached out and activated the receiver. The screen flickered to life, showing a face unlike any she had seen before. The being had no crystalline features, no iridescent skin. Its face was soft-looking, with small eyes and a strange protrusion in the middle. Its head was covered with dark fibers. "This is Captain Susan Clark of the Earth vessel Horizon," the being said. The ship's translator struggled to convert the unknown language, but Ilara understood the essential meaning. "We received your distress call. We're here to help." Tears formed in Ilara's eyes, catching the light like tiny diamonds. "Please," she managed to say through the translator. "My son. Help my son." Susan's face showed an expression Ilara couldn't interpret, but somehow she knew it was compassion. "We're sending a rescue team down now," Susan said. "Hold on just a little longer." Outside, the horizon descended toward the moon's surface, its landing lights cutting through the darkness. Inside the ship, the rescue team made final preparations. Dr. Linda Barnes, Security Chief William Jones, and 2 medical technicians suited up in modified environmental gear. Their suits carried specialized equipment to create a breathable atmosphere for the aliens. As they prepared to exit the ship, Susan addressed them one last time. "We don't know exactly what we'll find in there, but remember why we're here, to save lives. Be careful, be respectful, and bring them home safely." The team nodded, and the airlock doors opened to the barren surface of the alien moon. Ahead of them stood the damaged alien vessel, its once sleek form now battered and broken. The first human contact with an alien species was about to begin, not as an exploration or a scientific mission, but as an act of compassion, a rescue. 3 weeks passed aboard the Horizon. The ship traveled through space, heading toward the border of Lyrian territory. Captain Susan Clark had decided to escort Ilara and Zephyr home personally, rather than waiting for Lyrian ships to meet them. In the specialized chamber that had become their temporary home, Ilara sat on the edge of her bed. Her leg was healing well. The human doctors had been remarkably adaptable, learning quickly how to treat Lyrian physiology despite having never encountered it before. Zephyr was fully recovered. The young alien moved around the chamber with boundless energy, examining everything with intense curiosity. He had learned some basic English words, though he still relied heavily on the translation system. "Mother, look," Zephyr called, pointing to a small device communications officer Betty Wilson had given him. It was a simple music player loaded with Earth songs. "Human music is so strange," he said. "But I like it." Ilara smiled at her son's enthusiasm. "The humans have been very generous with us." The door to their chamber opened and Dr. Linda Barnes entered, accompanied by Captain Clark. "How are you feeling today?" Linda asked, checking Ilara's vital signs on her medical scanner. "Much better," Ilara replied. "My people will be amazed by your medical knowledge. You learned to treat us so quickly." Susan smiled. "Dr. Barnes is the best in the fleet." Linda shook her head modestly. "I had excellent patients. And Zephyr's data crystal with your medical records was incredibly helpful. Zephyr beamed at the mention of his contribution. The small crystal he wore around his neck contained basic Lyrian medical information. It had been a gift from his father, who was a medical researcher on their homeworld. "We'll reach the border of Lyrian space tomorrow," Susan informed them. "We've sent messages ahead explaining the situation." Alara's expression grew serious. "What was the response?" Susan hesitated. "There was confusion at first. Your government seemed surprised that humans would rescue you. There was concern about our presence near their territory." "I'm not surprised," Alara said. "As I told you, my people have observed humans from afar but avoided direct contact. We feared your unpredictable nature." "And now?" Susan asked. Alara's skin glowed with a warmer light. "I have sent my own messages. I told them how you risked everything to save us when no one else could have reached us in time, how you fought to protect us from the scavengers, how your doctor worked day and night to heal us." The ship's intercom system activated. "Bridge to Captain Clark," First Officer Alan West's voice announced. "We're receiving a transmission from a Lyrian vessel. They're requesting to speak with you." "On my way," Susan replied. She nodded to Alara and Zephyr. "It seems your people are reaching out." On the bridge, a large Lyrian ship appeared on the view screen. It was beautiful, sleek and crystalline, catching the light of distant stars and rainbow patterns. Next to it were two smaller vessels of similar design. "They're hailing us, Captain," Betty reported. "On screen," Susan ordered. The view screen changed to show a Lyrian with deeply glowing skin and ornate markings on his face. Unlike Alara and Zephyr, he wore elaborate clothing with symbolic patterns. "I am Council Leader Theron of the Lyrian Confederation," he said through the translation system. "You are Captain Susan Clark?" Susan stepped forward. "Yes, I am. Welcome, Council Leader." Theron studied her for a moment. "We have received researcher Alara's reports about your rescue of her and her son. Our observers have also reviewed the data from your encounter with the scavenger vessels." He paused. "Your actions were unexpected." "We were responding to a distress call," Susan said simply. "That's what humans do." "So Alara has explained to us," Theron replied. "For many cycles we have observed human expansion across the stars. We saw your conflicts, your aggression. We decided it was safer to avoid contact." Susan nodded. "We're not perfect, but we try to be better than our worst instincts." "Perhaps we misjudged you," Theron said. "Alara believes so. She has petitioned the Council to establish formal diplomatic relations with humanity." Susan couldn't hide her surprise. "And what did the Council decide?" "We wish to meet with you personally, Captain Clark. You and your crew who saved our people. A historic meeting between our species." The next day, Susan led a small delegation from the horizon aboard the main Lyrian vessel. With her were Dr. Linda Barnes, Engineer Paul Rodriguez, and Communications Officer Betty Wilson, all key members of the rescue team. The Lyrian ship was breathtaking inside. The walls seemed alive, pulsing gently with light that flowed like water. The atmosphere was different from Earth's, but the humans' lightweight breathing masks allowed them to function comfortably. In a large chamber with a domed ceiling that displayed the stars outside, the Lyrian Council waited. 7 council members sat in a semicircle, with Theron in the center. Alara and Zephyr stood to one side, now dressed in formal Lyrian clothing. As the humans entered, the council rose to greet them. "Captain Susan Clark," Theron said formally. "The Lyrian people extend our deepest gratitude for the rescue of researcher Alara and her son Zephyr. Your actions represent the best of what humanity can be." Susan bowed her head respectfully. "We simply answered a call for help. Anyone would have done the same." "No," Alara said, stepping forward. "Not anyone would have done what you did. My own people could not have reached us in time. You crossed boundaries to save strangers. You fought to protect us. You showed a quality that transcends species. Compassion." Zephyr moved to stand beside his mother. He was holding something in his hands, a small crystal sphere that glowed with inner light. "This is for you," he said, offering it to Susan. "I made it with help from our artisans. It's a memory crystal. It holds the story of how you saved us." Susan accepted the gift with care. "Thank you, Zephyr. We will treasure it." Theron addressed the humans again. "This rescue has changed how we see humanity. We propose an exchange of knowledge and culture, a beginning of friendship between our peoples." "We would be honored," Susan replied. Later, as the human delegation prepared to return to the horizon, Ilara and Zephyr accompanied them to the docking area. "What will you do now?" Linda asked Ilara. "The Council has appointed me as special envoy." "To Earth," Ilara replied with a smile. "Zephyr and I will be among the first Lyrians to visit your world officially." Zephyr was practically glowing with excitement. "Betty promised to show me more human music when we visit." Betty laughed. "Absolutely. We'll start with the classics." As they said their goodbyes, Ilara took Susan's hands in hers. "You know, in our oldest stories, there is a concept called the thread that binds. It refers to the invisible connection between all living beings. We lost sight of that truth over time, becoming isolated and cautious." "And now?" Susan asked. "Now we remember. The call we sent into the darkness was answered, not by those who looked like us or thought like us, but by those who shared something deeper, the willingness to help strangers in need." Ilara's eyes shimmered. "That is the true thread that binds all sentient life." As the horizon departed Lyrian space, a new chapter had begun. What started as a desperate rescue had evolved into something profound, a bridge between two civilizations that might never have met otherwise. On the bridge, Susan looked at the crystal sphere Zephyr had given her. Inside it, tiny points of light danced like stars, telling a story that would be remembered by both species for generations to come. The story of how humans answered a call for rescue when no one else could.